Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Triangle of Fence. I'm Monish, and as always, I'm joined by Nishant, who doesn't look too happy today after the Lakers ended up in a disappointing loss against the Brooklyn Nets. And that's what I want to talk about today, Brooklyn Nets and the Lakers, both trending in opposite directions. Now, Brooklyn have won 5 consecutive games. The Lakers, though, have just lost one, but things haven't been looking as rosy as they did at the start of the season where they were runaway favorites. Have they? Now, let's talk about Brooklyn Nets first and we'll come back to the Lakers, right? What do you think about Brooklyn Nets? Do you finally think they've figured out how to go about with their all offense, no defense lineup? And they kind of seem to have figured it out playing Jeff Green at the center, kind of a small ball version of what the Rockets did last season, but in probably a little more extreme way given that they have no defense at all.
Yeah.
You think this will work?
Yeah. First of all, let's talk about the Nets and get back to the Lakers. No, how about we don't get back to the Lakers uh, for the foreseeable future? Yeah, they're playing It's D'Antoni again, man. I don't know. It's like he was everywhere, and he's not going to let this small ball go. And I don't know when he'll learn, but this might probably be the last straw and pretty much the last opportunity also that he has to prove that his system works. Because it's been around for 15 years now. And it's fantastic. Don't get me wrong. We've spoken about this last year. It's like a concept car.
Yeah.
It's never realistic. It's never going to see the light of day in the real world. But everything that does come to the real world is some rationalized trickle down version of what he does. He did it with the Phoenix Suns, where he had the ridiculous athleticism of Sean Marion and Amari Stoudemire. Stoudemire also on the coaching staff at the Nets, led by the visionary genius of two-time MVP Steve Nash. Scintillating offense. Couldn't defend. They were a lot better than this team, but couldn't defend at a high level in the playoffs, and they got undone. Okay, takes some time off, rejigs it, comes back to Houston and does the whole small ball thing again after trading Capella and playing PJ Tucker at the 5. What happened in the interim? San Antonio Spurs played their own version of a small ball, but with an actual big. Wasn't really small ball, it was team ball with a largely small lineup, but one 7-footer who's an all-time great. And they won. They won the chip. Golden State said, all right, small ball, we like this. But again, we're going to do it the San Antonio way, not the D'Antoni way. We'll do it with one pivot. It's not going to be anyone phenomenal. It'll be David West or it'll be JaVale McGee, and we'll make them look like all-stars and champions. But we'll have a pivot. Why do you need that pivot? Rim protection and rebounds. It doesn't matter how good your defense is if you're not rebounding the ball after a missed shot. If the other team just picks it up and goes right back at you, this is the NBA. They are going to score. Once out of 2 attempts, say once every 2 possessions, they're going to score. That's a 25% probability of them scoring. It's going to happen every single time on every single team. So, and the Brooklyn Nets have a problem of neither do they defend well in the first place, nor do they get any rebounds. And it's crushing them. It's killing them. It's what screwed the Rockets. They actually defended well, I thought, after they added Covington last year. Harden stepped it up too in the playoffs. But you're just no match. They got booted out by AD that they just couldn't handle. And if not him, they would have gotten booted out by Jokic, another big that they couldn't handle. Let's look at some numbers, right? And I'm not going to talk about their scoring prowess or any of that, but just where they rank in the league. So not only are they the best offense in the league, they're on track to become the best offense ever, which is something we should get used to seeing year on year almost now, because the teams are just so much more efficient. I mean, last year, the Mavs had the all-time record.
Yep.
But they're on track to be the number 1 offense all time. And they're the number 1 offense, of course, this season. But they're the number 25 defense in the league. They're a number 25 defense. They are 24th in protecting the ball, too many turnovers. They're 29th out of 30th in forcing turnovers on defense. They are 20th out of 30 teams in defensive rebounds and 22nd of 30 teams in offensive rebounds. I mean, the writing's on the wall. All of this gives them a net rating of what? 3 points, right? It's a 118 offense, 115, 116 defense. Something like a 2-3 point net rating. That's not enough. That's too many games being cut too close. Now, Yeah, they beat the Lakers, but they beat the Lakers without AD, without Dennis Schroeder. This was really not the Lakers. It was probably the weakest
course.
starting five we've seen in 3 years, and that's including the Lonzo and Brandon Ingram era before AD came in. So I wouldn't look into this too much. I'd be worried for the Lakers, but not for this loss. In general, a bunch of other factors. Brooklyn have a ridiculously good offense. It's going to win them games. I don't think this surprises anyone. But we've seen 60-win teams go fall flat in the playoffs because they couldn't defend. What's keeping the Lakers in the race even this season? Because it's an atrociously poor offense. AD's not been himself even when he's played. What keeps them in the race? They have the number one defense in the league. And that's in the regular season. Imagine in the playoffs.
Right.
So defense is of paramount importance. It's the one side of the game that gets neglected so much only when it can be taken for granted. When it can't, it's the one side of the game that gets exposed faster than you can blink. If your defense is as good as the Lakers defense or the Utah Jazz defense, sure, you're not really thinking about defense. You're looking at LeBron, you're looking at the alley-oops, you're looking at Schroeder cutting, you're looking at Donovan Mitchell popping off, all of that stuff. Conley from beyond the arc. But if defense sucks, that's a problem that suddenly half the league doesn't know how to fix. Coaches can't figure it out. GMs don't know whom to recruit. Like, there are very few people that can genuinely plug a hole in defense. That's why I rate Nick Nurse so highly. There are very few people that can do it with whatever personnel they have, figure out a team defense system. Nick Nurse, and to his credit, Frank Vogel. In fact, defense is probably the only thing for which he gets immense credit, apart from not being afraid to rotate teams, right? Offense is largely, it's head coach LeBron, GM LeBron, it's everything LeBron on offense.
Now,
we've
said everything about Brooklyn, about all the numbers, all the history doesn't favor teams that don't defend and all of that. But with this Brooklyn team, it's something that we've never seen before. When have we last seen a team with someone the likes of KD, Kyrie, and Harden all in the same team? That's never happened before. So I don't think all the previous statistics matter at all, because such a lineup has never been put together.
Right.
This is a crazy lineup who can go out and score 140 points. And if you can remotely defend well, I'm not even saying they have to be the best defense in the league. If they can be the top 15 defense in the league, top 17 defense in the league, maybe. I think that's good enough for them, because their offense is ridiculously good.
No, I agree. I don't disagree at all. I'm not even saying they can't get it done. I'm saying currently as they stand, this is not going to cut it. That they have to figure out. I think where my lack of confidence stems from is not only that this is hitherto unseen. A team constructed thus can go on to win the chip. We've not really seen this happen. The Golden State Warriors were a different composition, as were the Spurs.
Yep.
But so A, history isn't on their side. B, do they have a coach? I'm saying in the league, there's hardly a coach that is capable of plugging defensive gaps. Like, you come into a great defensive team, a lot of coaches can run it well. But if a team sucks on defense, there are very few coaches that can handle that turnaround project. Least of all, Steve Nash, D'Antoni, and Stoudemire. I have no faith in the coaching. I think that's really where I'm coming from. But if the question is, how do they go from now to being a less than pathetic defense? How about let's be an average, rank average, 15th, 16th in the league defense?
Yep.
I think the first thing they've got to plug is their rebounds. The strength of their offense is so good. Just grab the boards and you'll create a differential right there. Even with a pathetic defense, you'll create a points differential.
Right.
And that's usually the easier of the two to fix. Defense is a complex beast. There's too many variables. It requires 6, 7, 8 players to be on the same page in a bunch of schemes for it to work. It takes time. Rebounding, it's a matter of personnel. That's it. That's all it is sometimes. It's just a matter of personnel. So if you could solve one thing with a trade, it's rebounding. So solve for rebounding at least. At the very least, that'll create differential. And then you have all of the rest of the season to see what schemes you can run. How do you play team defense? Jeff Green at the 5, okay, sounds good. But there will be teams that can pick you apart if you run that. Like, Embiid is going to butcher you if you play Jeff Green at the 5. It doesn't matter what you do at the other end. And Embiid, remember, Embiid's not just a paint scorer. He's the mid-range king apparently this season. So it's not like he'll torch you only from under the rim. He'll stretch you out and kill you. And then if If you commit more defenders to Embiid, and then you have Simmons slashing, Tobias Harris making cuts, getting into good positions, God bless you. And boy, do they have shooters in Philadelphia. So there are teams that will butcher you if you play this kind of ball. So I'd fix the rebounding first, and then work out over the course of the rest of the season. How do we not suck on defense? That's really the one-liner. How do Brooklyn Nets win the championship? Figure out how to not absolutely suck on defense. That's it. That's all they have to do. Just be a rank average defense, and it's the chip.
So at this moment, Philadelphia are probably still the favorites in the East, given that they have not done much wrong, right? But do you think Brooklyn have jumped from, say, the third, fourth, fifth to the second spot, also combined with Milwaukee's 5 losses in a row? Do you think they're strongly the second spot? They've cemented that they're going to make the finals from the East?
Yeah, all logic suggests it, but I just can't seem to give up hope on the Boston Celtics. I don't think I've seen enough from a playoff perspective to definitively conclude that there's no way the Boston Celtics take down the Brooklyn Nets should they face off in the playoffs.
Okay.
I'm not there yet. Do Brooklyn Nets start as favorites? Absolutely.
Okay.
Reasonably well-measured favorites, 60% win probably. Maybe. But it's not so overwhelming that I can say there's no way the Boston Celtics upset the Brooklyn Nets. It'll be an upset, but can't rule that out. They are a nightmare matchup for this Brooklyn team. So I'm still going to hold on to that Boston dream for now. Let's see how that plays out. Philadelphia are absolutely the team to beat still for me, until the Brooklyn Nets can show that they can up their rebounding, and even slightly that they're capable of making improvements to their defense. Run a scheme, figure out your rotations. If they can improve slightly over the next 10 games, then I think that gives a lot of people confidence that come playoffs, they're not going to be the worst team ever on defense. They're going to figure it out to at least contain the damage to an extent, bring up their rebounding, and then there's no stopping them. There's really no stopping them. If you're going to get punished off of every missed shot, and all they need to do is grab a rebound, because once you get the ball to your guys, you're going to punish them at the other end. Which is why I say rebounding is the priority. But then I'll believe. But for now, I'm not going to rule out the Boston Celtics in the East.
All right. So that is the East. And coming to the West, and now coming back to the Lakers. I know you don't want to talk about this, but are Lakers at least the second favorite team in the West now that they've been stretched a few times? They've lost their main second guy, right? Anthony Davis was such a big part of this lineup, and he's not going to be out. He's going to be out for at least a month now. So do you think they're still the second team, or are Clippers clearly stronger than them at this moment?
Okay. Until somebody comes out and says that Anthony Davis is out for the season, the Lakers are not the second, not the third. They are the favorites. They're the defending champs. They got stronger.
Okay.
It's the deepest team in basketball, and defense wins you playoff series. They have the best defense in the land. Even with last year's DPOY runner-up hardly playing this season, they have the best defense in the land. That's all entirely credit to Frank Vogel, who is a genius defensively. The only thing he achieved in Indiana before he got this Lakers gig, was he turned them into a defensive powerhouse. Now, granted, they couldn't stop LeBron, but who could in the East? But they were a defensive powerhouse, right? So I place disproportionate emphasis on defense in playoffs. So do most people. Lakers are the best defense in the land. This is without Anthony Davis, a DPO runner-up, and a close one at that. People thought he got robbed last season. I didn't.
Fair.
People did. So defense is still there. Now, is that going to be the offense that we see? The shooting 7th best in the league, by the way, true shooting, which is not terrible entirely. With the best defense in the league, that's not terrible. Now, with AD coming back, does that go up? Yeah. A stretch 5 who's unstoppable in the paint. Yeah. So until AD is ruled out, I think this is still, people forget, this is still the deepest squad in the league.
True.
We've not seen it full strength for a while now, but this is still the deepest squad in the league. Now, if AD is ruled out, yeah, good night. Like, forget about it. Like, Lakers are going nowhere in the West. Unless this is, like, if LeBron can take this team to the finals, like, let's just end the debates right now. Tom Brady, nobody cares. Serena Williams, whatever. Michael Jordan, it's over. But yeah, if AD is out, Lakers out. There's really no two ways about it. As long as AD is there and he's going to come back, fit. Let's be clear. Lakers are still the team to beat. It doesn't matter how well Utah Jazz play, Lakers are the team to beat because they're a matchup nightmare in the playoffs. That's what it is. Utah
That's
might
fair.
as well top the West, but they're a matchup nightmare, the Lakers.
Got it.
If Eddie's out, it's between Utah and the Clippers, and I'd actually favor Utah.
Okay. Are you somewhere concerned that the Lakers are kind of stretching LeBron more than they should because he's carrying this team entirely? He's playing 35, 36 minutes, and this is not even the playoffs. It's halfway through. It's not even halfway through the season. So somewhere concerning there, or this is LeBron and he knows what he does best.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's probably somewhere between there because I don't know how much the Lakers are stretching him so much as LeBron stretching himself. Because at this point, it feels like he's chasing ghosts in terms of the all-time great race. It's always been how he's played. He's never ever been the guy that takes time off unless he absolutely needs it, right? Unless there's injury, he's kind of old school in that sense. So this has always been how he plays unless he has an injury. The more it seems like that kind of urban legend thing that at some point you defy the odds every year until you don't. And you're not the exception that defies the rule, you're the exception that proves the rule. At some point, you're going to prove the rule that at some age, your body is going to snap and give up. And I fear that we might discover that the hard way if they keep pushing him, but it's how he's always played. I mean, what do you do? The only way to solve for that is not to make LeBron rest, not to convince him to take time off. It's to bring the other guys back so he can he can sleep easy a bit. Marc Gasol's not helping, man. Marc Gasol's really not helping. I think once AD comes back and here just a random wild thought, right? I feel like the Lakers should take a punt on Blake Griffin because Marc Gasol is really not. Yeah. Whatever he is, I think he's better than Marc Gasol. So they should take a punt on him unless it costs them a bomb and luxury tax and all that. Then it's not worth it. But if there's a buyout situation, they should absolutely go in on Blake Griffin. Here's an interesting thought though. The Lakers are third in the league in defensive rebounding percentage. This is without AD and with a truly terrible Marc Gasol. He's a shell of the man that he once was.
Right.
And the Lakers are third. That's how much LeBron's getting stretched. Because him and Kuzma are picking up the rebounding end of the ball game too. It is a concern, but he's never been one to take time off and load manage. So really the only way to solve for him getting some rest is getting all of the others back so he can rest easy without any guilt.
All right. Let's hope the Lakers can turn around their form. It's not really a form. It's just one game loss. Whatever said and done, they won all those overtime games and won every close game. So just one loss. So I hope they can turn this around very quickly and hope LeBron can get some much needed rest. Nobody will complain if he load manages a few games. But it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. It'll also be interesting to see where Brooklyn go from here because they won 5 in a row. How much can they keep winning? We'll keep our eyes on that, and I will catch you on Monday.
Yeah, these are the teams to watch, man. All right, cheers.
Bye.
Bye.